There's an interesting article out in Politico that says that Trump is basically letting Benjamin Netanyahu humiliate him in public, and he's okay with it. Fascinating. And so we have a unique relationship with Israel that I want to ask John about in a second. But John, let me give you some of the details of this particular humiliation. We did a peace deal with Hamas. It was amazing. They agreed to disarm completely. And I was a little bit shocked by it. And it goes in stages. And Israel withdraws, they disarm, and on in carefully coordinated steps. And of course, Israel instantly rejected it. But the way that they did so publicly was pretty spectacular. They normally speak in code, but in this case, they were like, no, we reject this peace deal. Okay, very clear. So Politico says the administration knows about it, the Trump administration, and says it's less concerned with what Netanyahu says than what the Israeli Defense Forces do. Well, that sounds fair, but I wonder what they have done. We'll get to that in a second. A US official who, like others in the story, was granted anonymity to discuss internal thinking, said that the administration was initially, quote, disappointed that Israel responded to the 15-point peace proposal by ramping up attacks in Gaza, but is pleased that it has since eased its assault. Has it? Because last week, Israeli ministers and security chiefs discussed resuming attacks on Gaza to signal that Israel rejects the US-backed 15-point phase 2 roadmap accepted by Hamas, according to the Times of Israel. The report follows a lull in Israeli airstrikes over the past several days. Those shootings by Israeli troops have continued, killing and wounding Palestinians. An Israeli strike in Beit Lahia, area of Gaza City on Wednesday killed a 10-year-old Palestinian child and wounded several others. So back to the administration, they say now the administration is willing to give the Israeli Prime Minister some leeway to message the peace plan in the way he needs to, the official said. There is broad understanding that he's 2 months from a tough re-election and needs to please his own hard-right allies to win. Now I'm going to come back to that in a second, but John, a couple of interesting points here. So number one, they're saying, well, it's okay because Israel's eased up on Gaza, but they haven't. They have not allowed the humanitarian aid in the way that they said they were going to. They continue to kill in Gaza. They've already done a whole October 7th since the ceasefire. So that's over 1,000 civilians killed. And so is there any reason to believe that the Trump administration actually thinks, oh no, even though Israel's slapping us across the face publicly, privately they're listening to us?
No, of course not. And in fact, I think it's the opposite. I think what we're seeing here is an admission, an unspoken admission by Donald Trump that he has no control or authority over Benjamin Netanyahu. He can make suggestions, certainly, but Netanyahu is going to do what's good for Netanyahu, not what's good for Donald Trump or what's going to make Donald Trump look good as a diplomatic leader. On the other hand, too, not even on the other hand, but another point is that this is all in the name of supporting Netanyahu's candidacy in the upcoming elections, the October elections. We're not supposed to take a position in foreign elections, just like the Democrats lost their minds when Netanyahu appeared to endorse Donald Trump, and we jumped up and down and said, hey, they're foreign nationals, they're not supposed to take a position on American elections. That's what this is. And that we're supposed to believe that Netanyahu's action did not make Donald Trump look bad or look weak. And in fact, it was this unspoken thing between the two of them where Netanyahu wanted to accept the 15-point plan, but he couldn't because of the election coming. That's just a silly afterthought to pacify Americans.
Yeah, so we're supposed to root for Netanyahu to win, but Netanyahu, I mean, put aside the politics of Democrat versus Republican or anything, but Netanyahu never listens to us. He never listened to Biden, he never listens to Trump. He's not listening to him now, so why would we root as a country for him to win when we know what we're gonna get with Netanyahu, a guy who takes all of our money and all of our military and never listens to us? So Since there's absolutely no logic in that, what's going on in reality here?
I hate to say it, but I'm just going to come out and say it. Donald Trump is weak. That's really what this bottom line is. Donald Trump is weak. He has no control over Benjamin Netanyahu. He has no control over Israeli politics. This is almost a half-hearted attempt to convince Americans that he does. And I think he's just gonna sort of wait it out to see what happens in this election.
Yeah, but the question is, why is he that weak in this regard? But I'll come back to that in a second, because I want to read you a couple more things here that shows you Israeli duplicity and sometimes them admitting it. In fact, here's Netanyahu's quote that I found to be interesting. He says, "We're in a campaign in which we're bringing the full might of the IDF as never before to this battle in order to ensure our existence," yeah, sure, "and our future. But we're also bringing this campaign to the assistance of the United States," hilarious, "my friend, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the US military. This combination of forces allows us to do what I have longed to do for 40 years, to strike the terrorist regime hip and thigh." So for 40 years, Netanyahu's been lying to us about how Iran's about to get a nuclear weapon in the next 2 weeks. Here, he's basically admitting it, saying, yeah, I've been trying to dupe you guys into this war for 40 years, and every time I told you they were weeks away, obviously that was a lie, because it's been 40 years. By definition, it's a lie, right? And he's basically rubbing it in our face now and going, yeah, I got Trump to do what I wanted. By the way, what am I doing in return? He explained, no, I'm not easing up at all. You want me to ease up? I'm not going to. I'm going to keep slaughtering in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, and Iran, and I'm never going to pull up. Now, on top of that, they give us phony intelligence, as John and I have talked about in the past. So in this particular case, Noble Mobile is one of our top sponsors. We love those guys. They save you a ton of money. So they've got a new proposal for you guys. It's gonna save you even more. So you can't pay more than $50 ever. You get money back for if you don't use your data. So it's already an incredible deal. TYT.com/switch. Now they're saying your first month's going to be only $10. So that's depending on how much data you use, savings of $20 to $40, right? You could download the app to track your brain rot index. That's how much you can save each month using your phone less and spending more time doing things that actually make you happy. So just a ton of wins in here, and the cell phone service for me has been perfect. I didn't have to change my phone or anything else on the phone. So please don't waste money. So if you're paying over $50, definitely. I think if you're paying over $30, switch now and you get the first month for $10. So TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. The Washington Post reports that the so-called assassination threat against Trump, the reason why he did that whole decoy plane, well, they explained that threat was relayed by the Israeli government to the CIA, of course, where analysts did not view the intelligence as compelling and conveyed that skepticism to Trump administration officials, one of the officials said. Another official called the reports of threats against Trump's life Israeli derived, not US generated, and viewed as low confidence. So, John, here we are again. The Israelis give us fake intelligence for Trump to get mad. Oh my God, Iran's trying to assassinate you. You should hate Iran, attack Iran, right? And we're not going to do the peace deal in Lebanon as part of your memorandum of understanding with Iran. We're not withdrawing 1 inch. We're not doing the peace deal in Gaza. We're not withdrawing 1 inch. So there's no question that Israel doesn't do what we want. There's no question they take our money and use our military. And there's no question that all of our presidents submit to them and do exactly as they are ordered by this tiny government. So now let's get to the core of why do we think that all of our leaders submit to them? Obviously, bribery is a huge part of it, and I mean legalized bribery. #1 donor to Joe Biden throughout his career, #1 donor to Mike Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump. Gave $5 million to Kamala Harris while she was running, gave $5 million to Marco Rubio back in 2015 when he was running against Donald Trump. So that part is obvious. And then, as we talked about last time, John, should we be considering other reasons? Like Trump worried about his own personal safety, but not from the Iranians, maybe from the Israelis. And in American media, you're not allowed to say that. It's outrageous, and how dare you, these beautiful, beloved allies of ours, or potentially blackmail. And obviously Epstein was a blackmail operation, and the drop site news stories prove that he was working on behalf of Israel in all of his foreign policy deals. So what should we be concerned about that we don't yet know publicly?
Wow, yeah. Everything you just said is true. And everything that you just said is something that I think every American, especially every American voter, should be deeply worried about. The money that has infected our political system has gotten us to the point where we're just about at the point of no return. There's almost nothing you can do about it. Only recently, because public opinion polls have so dramatically shifted, and political figures have had the courage to stand up and say that they won't take AIPAC money. That's the only thing that gives me hope. But yeah, I mean, the conventional wisdom is that the Israelis could very well have had something to do with the Kennedy assassination in 1963. That I've said from the very beginning, from the very first time that the name Jeffrey Epstein appeared in the media, that this appeared to me to be a classic Israeli access agent case. Alan Dershowitz denied and denied and denied, but you're right, Drop Site News has gotten to the bottom of the story. And just the fact that after a vote of 419-1 in the House and 99-0 in the Senate, and his own signature on the bill turning it into law, Donald Trump then just arbitrarily said, I'm not gonna release the Epstein files. What are you gonna do about it? You're gonna sue me? Go ahead and sue me. And that only makes him look guilty. Now, he told Marjorie Taylor Greene that he didn't want to embarrass his friends, right? Well, maybe he didn't want to embarrass himself. Maybe he knows that the Israelis have information on him and he's just decided to protect himself. I think that that's always going to be the conventional wisdom until he actually releases the documents, and it appears that he's not going to release the documents. I want to add one other thing, Cenk, if I could. I've said this many times in podcasts, and I've actually taken some heat for it, but in my own experience at the CIA, even beginning before I got to the CIA, when Ronald Reagan was president, Benjamin Netanyahu, as the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations and then Israeli ambassador to the United States, went to Reagan and George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Barack Obama and asked them, please bomb Iran, please bomb Iran, please bomb Iran. And every one of those presidents said no, until this one. This one said, okay. And I wanna add one other thing. In the immediate aftermath of the October 7th attack, Netanyahu said on multiple occasions that there were Iranian terrorist squads spread out across the United States in every major city. Okay, then where have the arrests been? Why haven't we read about any such terrorist squads? Why haven't we read about the FBI breaking down doors and grabbing people who meant us harm? Because the Israelis made it up. They always make this stuff up. One final thought. Right after the 9/11 attacks at the CIA, we created something called the threat matrix, which wasn't as fancy as it sounds. It was just a daily report of every piece of raw intelligence about a threat to the United States that we would get overnight. We would update it every single night and brief it to the president at 7 o'clock every morning, 6 days a week. Well, the reason why this was a dangerous thing was because it was literally every threat. So if some crazy person walks into the US Embassy in London and says, I came from outer space and the Iranians told me to blow up the American embassy in Chad, that goes on the threat matrix. Do we believe the information? Of course we don't. The officer who interviewed this woman determined she was a crazy person. She doesn't have the ability to get to Chad or to launch an attack or whatever, but it would go in the threat matrix and it would go to the president. Well, that's what we're seeing today. Every utterance from the mouth of Benjamin Netanyahu, every memo coming from the Mossad or the IDF goes directly to the White House. It screams threat, 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 even where no threat exists. And American policy is made in response. And that's just simply wrong.
Yeah, I mean, look, whether the Israelis lie is not a matter in dispute. They just told us right before the war that, oh, don't worry, we have intelligence that they can't close the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to get regime change easily. And even some Israeli first officials like Marco Rubio were like, that's not true, right? And of course, it turned out not to be true at all. The only people in this country who haven't figured it out are the reporters. They're like, Israeli lies. That sounds outrageous. Like every single thing.
That's anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's become like a joke. But I have one last thing for you. So speaking of those same reporters, if you ever mention the idea that the Israelis might do blackmail, they like almost black out, lose consciousness. They're so outraged. Like, oh, that's so conspiratorial. So you're at the CIA. Do intelligence agencies do blackmail? Do they do honeypot operations? Is that a thing that's like outrageous and never heard of and spectacularly strange that, oh my God, maybe it happened once in 1978? Or is that a fairly regular occurrence for intelligence agencies throughout the world?
Yeah, it's a regular occurrence. The CIA actually stopped doing honeypot operations in the 1970s because they didn't work. Because coercion really doesn't engender good feelings between the officer and the agent. And so for us, they didn't work. But here we are all these years later, and we know that the Israelis still use honeypot operations, the Russians still use honeypot operations, the French use honeypot operations. So sure, of course they use them. They use them because for their purposes, they do work. The Israelis, listen, if the Mossad is going after you, they don't care if you love them or hate them. They don't care if once they get you to respond to their taskings, you consider yourself to be their friend. They don't care. They just want the information. And if they have to entrap you, if they have to trick you, if they have to threaten you, they're gonna get the information from you. It's something that for us doesn't work. For them, it works just fine.
Yeah. No, the so-called journalists in this country are hilarious. They're like, yeah, intelligence operations by Mossad. Well, obviously they're going to act very morally. They're going to be upstanding citizens, and they would never cross any moral threshold like blackmailing powerful people in America or in the West. Outrageous. I mean, come on. They're not willing to entertain the possibility when that is a tried and true method that we know they use. And by the way, like John said, many countries use. So the idea of calling it conspiratorial makes me question whether the journalists are, part of the operation to cover it up. Because no journalist in their right mind would find that to be an outrageous accusation or conspiratorial, especially given that Epstein had cameras inside the Kleenex boxes, inside the clocks, and incredibly powerful men, including presidents, partied with Epstein and might have been recorded. And our press says, yes, all of that is true, but if you report things that are true, we're just gonna call you an anti-Semite. Okay, that's not journalism, that's weirdo, cover up for Israel. And so it's a very strange thing that's happening in our country. But here you're beginning to see the reality of it, and all of America is beginning to see the reality of it, and it's driving them crazy. But nevertheless, still today in Politico, that article I quoted you, saying like, oh no, it's true. Oh no, yeah, the Israelis, they're gonna do the moral thing after Netanyahu wins again, and that's why we don't mind getting slapped across the face politically and publicly, because we're so sure that they're wonderful and moral and decent people. Should we write it down like it's true? Yeah, let's write it down like it's true. And that's what they did today. It's absurd, total fiction from mainstream media. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets its wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.